Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Paul Nazareth. Paul, among all of the things that you do, you are a director with Word on the Street here in Toronto. Can you describe what is Word on the Street?
Yeah, I'm actually a dropout of university. I flunked out of U of T trying to be a high school English teacher. But while I was flunking out of school at U of T, I wandered into one of the first words on the street about 37 years ago. So it was in Queen's Park at the time. It's been on Queen Street for many years too. It's Canada's largest literary festival, and it brings everything that's the word, books, poetry, artists all together over a couple days each fall.
Let's go back to that 37 years ago. You walk into Word on the Street. What struck you or what grabbed you that you said, wow, this is something I don't want to include as part of my day-to-day routine or my annual routine?
Yeah, I'm actually I was born in Toronto. I was born downtown in the summer, same year as the CN Tower opened, and I was born on opening day of the CNE. And actually, I go 3 or 4 times every year. I really believe in public festivals, public spaces, all of that. But I was a flunking out English major, and I wandered into a book festival. I was like, "There's nerds who are doing things outside. There's a poetry garden, and there's again, literally included financial literacy, all of that kind of stuff." So I'd never seen this very niche idea come to life in a public space.
And so maybe just describe the public space where Word on the Street is today. You mentioned Queen's Park, Queen Street. Where does it take place? When does it take place? We'll come back and plug that at the end. But I want to, before we continue the discussion, paint the picture of, you know, what is this public space you're talking about with these poetry gardens?
Yes, and this year we're lucky again. Got a great spot. It's called David Pecault Square, right next to Roy Thompson Hall. And again, as an English major dropout, I was working for Ed Mervish in the '90s at nights, and so it's all down there in the theater district. We've got this beautiful, gigantic public square for all of the vendors, all the booksellers, all the bookshops, and then the different stages for literacy activity for kids, seniors, everybody.
So, I mean, you're going to answer this is for everybody, but who are the people that are going to be most attracted to this first? And then how do we expand that circle?
Last year the crazy part was we got another like 10,000 plus bodies because there was a Blue Jays game. Right. And so a lot of it is the public space thing. People come to it from the literary world because it really was a collection of booksellers and word people, etc. I went there in my 20s because it was the best place for me to pick up all my magazine subscriptions for like $10 a piece. I went there, I got a Globe and Mail, Maclean's, Newsweek, Toronto Life. And these magazines were also very important in my education and my career. So that was an annual thing for me. I would go and buy like 10 subscriptions for the price of one once a year. That was the benefit of the festival. And then engaging artists, engaging all these different things was just a different way to see things in the world.
Look, I have an English degree. You almost got your English degree, so I think we're going to come to the same conclusion on this. But why does this stuff matter? Why does supporting writers and the people who craft stories and worlds with words? Why does that stuff even matter?
It's all about imagination. Again, you and I right now are helping individual donors, families, foundations to dream in real life. And that's what these kind of things do. And we were talking about what's this application to the rest of the country. This is not just about word on the street or literature. This is about all of Canada's great festivals, cultural festivals, music festivals, community festivals. We are losing them. We've lost a Fringe in Vancouver, a couple in the prairies. The Santa Claus parade in Toronto had a GoFundMe last year. Right. So all these cultural things are going bankrupt. And if we lose the cultural power, the regional power, we need to tell Canada's local stories. That's what now I'm talking about the Guelph Festival and all these local ones, but word on the street, because it's so established and so big and been around, it's a great case study of how these things work.
What do you attribute the kind of loss of the cultural festivals or the cultural space to? Here we are in 2026. We're supposed to be more connected than ever before, but if we're losing these opportunities to connect, what does that say about where we are?
The easy answer would be to say that COVID destroyed special events. Sure, it did, but there's something else going on. And that is that there's a funding trap. Most of these festivals are beholden to grant making foundations, cities, municipalities, regional bodies. All of that funding is collapsing. That's why they're going out of business, because they don't want to adapt, and they can't because it's too late for a lot of them to shift to individual donors and individual giving. Again, I love the word on the street. I joined the board because they had no fundraising several years ago. They got 250,000 bodies coming through this festival, and there's no tap to give. It's just a bunch of apple juice cans with the top come out of them, right? So those are the things that have to match. Otherwise, we won't have these things. And there are a lot of fake cultural festivals, Red Bull and that kind of thing. Those aren't real, right? So again, every community deserves to keep the culture that they've had for the last how long?
I want to dig into what you just said there. You mentioned that kind of the fundraising has collapsed, and has it collapsed because the organizations haven't been able to innovate or adapt, or is it collapsed because that traditional source of funding, other foundations, other endowments, municipalities have decided to shift their giving somewhere else?
One has caused the other. Because the traditional funders are shifting and cutting back, it left a lot of the festivals who are operating charities in the tough position to grow their fundraising, but they have no capacity and no expertise. Again, I love this charity desperately. I've known it for over 30 years. They never asked me for money before I joined the board, and then I had to ask myself. Right? So they just don't have the culture in there. They don't have the mechanics to even collect the money. Frankly, we are now, the new staff team is leading them into a more stable financial future. And frankly, why? Because we dumped a lot of fundraising, leaned into sponsorship and partnerships. And because we've got, and again, a lot of these festivals, they get Main Street. And the booksellers, the advertisers, they want to be in that place. And again, it is an incredible economic exercise. That's also why I'm so proud of it, because it's about the book industry, the literature industry, and we are a positive asset towards that.
I want to play back in my own words what you just said. Are you talking about the need to diversify the revenue stream away from strict fundraising, not to abandon it completely, but this notion of sponsorships and partnerships? This is a more commercial aspect, that the fact you're bringing $250,000 people through Pico Square, there's an economic reason for other people to want to be involved in the work you're doing.
You bet. And the timing for us is September 27th, 28th. There's a hangover from TIFF, the International Film Festival. A lot of those incredible vendors want to do street activations. They see that we've got the bodies there. Again, one Blue Jays game, you get an extra 10, 15,000 bodies. They really love it. But again, we care about the cultural piece, the programming, the education part. How do we engage the different groups? Again, downtown is now becoming so much more lived it. Seniors, kids, all of that are there, so that's why even we get invested in by the public library, other cultural institutions, to use festivals as a way to educate and engage the public. And again, we need more of those, not less of those.
So let's go back. Let's paint the picture. So maybe I'm coming from somewhere else. I didn't know that Word in the Street was taking place. I walk by Pico Square. What am I going to see? What's that visitor experience look like?
That's what the staff team has probably done the best. They're obsessed with programming, obsessed with being that invitational concept for people who love the word in all its forms. Yes, it's a nerd festival. So any nerdery you're engaged in, you will connect with it right away. We got science fiction writers, business writers. We've got there's a huge lineup because there's a live poetry writing, and these poets, it's a confessional booth. You confess your life to them and then they write a poem about it. All of this engagement in this very large public space to intellectually connect with people at different ages and stages of life. There's a grief exhibit. There's things for again the poetry, the young people stuff. CBC comes, engages kids in education literacy. We've got a couple of groups, and frankly, even the traditional banks. We're coming to talk to young people about financial literacy, right? So it's got all something for everybody, but it is very targeted. And again, it's also an economic exercise. That's why cities need these.
You mentioned sort of authors, and you mentioned poetry a couple of times, but um, so am I correct in assuming that you have authors that will come and talk about their creative process, talk about their work, and the people that are interested in those works and those authors get a chance to actually interact in real time with the people who have created, maybe their favorite novel?
Let me be very honest and full disclosure. One of my secret reasons for joining this board was just to hobnob with my Vedas artists. Holy crap. This is one of the largest literary festivals in this country. They have hundreds of artists on the stages doing panels and everything. I have met my fictional, non-fictional heroes at this place, and seen them over the years. My favorite journalists, all of it. This is actually a place where these are nerds who never come out. Actually, the journalists were the incredible introverts. I never thought that they would be introverts, but when they were on a stage talking about how they exposed, how they profiled, how their life was at risk very often. Again, I saw Salman Rushdie and two other activists who've been attacked before on these stages. So it's really powerful, very cool, very connective. And also one of these things, because it's Toronto and it's TIFF and really big Giller authors and all that, it can be very high level, very engaging. And again, that's where I've told the team, and we're trying to do more private client things, all their events with some of these folks. We have the greatest authors and poets in the world. Yeah.
What, you know, to what do you attribute kind of we've read a lot in the press about the decline of reading, and here you are, you're an advocate, you're boosting kind of authors and poetry and novelists. What do you attribute the decline in kind of Canadians reading more and more works?
Hey, we are in a society right now that is working actively on getting dumber. Talking to artificial intelligence and all these kind of things, it goes back to engagement. Now, granted, I won't say that my love of books is totally healthy. We all are facing our childhood traumas and all those kind of things. And maybe I read Lord of the Rings when I was 8, and that might have been too young. But we are facing those things. And that is also what this is about, and asking, what is literacy about? And frankly, for me later in life, it was about investing in the Globe and Mail, in Maclean's magazine, in my career, and the Economist magazine. And the Economist sold their subscriptions the cheapest at an arts festival, right? So it was about buying in and investing in us. And that's what literature and literacy in a lot of ways is about, investing in wherever you are in your age and stage. I'm a burnout. I'm a tax financial specialist, but man, I need poetry more than ever. And again, the most powerful poem is Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. It's 100-year-old poem that I turn to very often to deal with the pain of being audited.
Well, while we're at it, do you have a favorite novelist? You said you met some of your heroes. Give me some of the highlights of your time attending
Never
one.
ever favorite, but to have met some of those people in my life. Again, tell you the truth, just yesterday, I was in a pool hall and one of my favorite authors ended up playing at the table next to me. And before I left, I said, "You are an absolute hero to me. You've been arrested for things that I believe in. I paid up your pool tab." I love being able to do that, but to meet them, see them talking, see them engaging their audience, frankly, even meeting their audience means I meet my people, right? A type of, frankly, I have a weird addiction to the business writers. I like the fiction stuff. It's very engaging in culture, but I actually go for a lot of the strategic folks, and helps me my career, helps me raise more millions and do more. But their perspective is so powerful, and truly meeting them in person is a gift. And I'm so surprised as well how nerdy they are. How many times authors have not met their fans, have not been engaged, and that whole exercise is another intellectual exercise too.
I think a lot of authors don't really think that they have fans because that's not the reason they pursue the work. Um,
Insane. Again, on Canada Day at midnight, I was wandering the streets because I was afraid of all the fireworks, and I've met one of my favorite business authors of all time. I've given away 500 copies of this woman's book. And then we met each other at midnight under the fireworks by accident because we were both out in our pajamas for walking our dogs. But I couldn't help it. I yelled at her across the street, "Oh my gosh, it's you!" Authors are amazing. And again, what's fascinating is they don't even know they're amazing. That's why I love this festival. In life should be about looking each other in the eye, and society has lost that.
Yeah, I wanna come back to that, but first, I don't wanna lose sight of the fact that you've mentioned a couple times, this is a gathering place for people that love the written word, and you mentioned the word literacy. How this sort of implies that you have a literate audience. How much is the festival doing to improve literacy, especially among new Canadians for whom English or French may not be their mother tongues?
Thank you for asking that. Again, I like to joke with people that board members are mostly useless. And you reminded me what the staff always reminds me is that's actually why this is a charity. If we were just running a one-day festival all year round, we wouldn't need this fiduciary governance. the real work of literacy is 364 days a year. So there is a ton of programming where it connects into libraries, schools, business, authors, the public. And that's the real work. That's the groundwork. That's the trench digging of literacy. And it's how we will make sure people, children, adults, seniors at all ages and stages of life can connect to the word. The more we allow them to disconnect into other things, then we'll lose them.
Are you seeing a change over the years in the population? You mentioned that the downtown area is becoming more livable. Are you seeing a shift or a change in the number of people, the type of people, young families, older Canadians that are coming to the festival?
I'd love to tell you it's changed, but actually, not really. Over that whole time, it is a wonderful set of usual suspects. It is about the curious. It is about people who are engaged in the word. So it's kind of like a reunion for nerds. A lot of the same like-minded people come back. What you get that's new, especially because it's Toronto, is so many new Canadians, so many transitory people. Again, the Blue Jays game brought a couple, the dozen thousand bodies through, and boy, oh boy, they bought books and things. And now that we do have more artists, more vendors, again, we're about creativity. We're trying to find creative food trucks, right? That's the engaging piece. And then their lives are so much more transformed as opposed to a traditional street festival with selling hot potatoes and hot dogs.
You mentioned the reason you're a charity is not just to put on an event. There's the continuing work. What does success look like for Word on the Street?
Ha. These days, frankly, it's financial stability. I joined the board to save the organization from bankruptcy because I believe arts funding is a mafia level trap. They're in a real challenging place, and I don't think they deserved it, nor did the staff team deserve it. So a lot of the future looks more like financial stability, but I'm a career fundraiser. I'm actually saying the current team, Kim and Kent leadership, all of it, they found stability in partnerships, in sponsorships, in money that we could bank on, rather than the foolishness and randomness of fundraising. And we couldn't build an economic model fast enough to bring stability. So again, I'm really proud that the staff team has got the stability. We've got sponsors and people showing up for it. But all we really want to do is grow the literacy, grow the outreach. That's what we're doing with donors. A lot of the new giving helps the festival to happen, but actually, all the new real targeted donations is someone that says, I'm a fan of the word. I want to see this thing happen in this place. Is it new Canadians? Is it women? Is it diverse people? All that niche giving is what's helping to grow the programming. And that's the real mission. The real mission is increasing and loving literacy.
I'm going to assume that you and the rest of the board are hard at work on establishing that level of financial stability, not just for now, but for into the future. But what is the takeaway for the visitor who stumbles across the festival? Is it all of the stuff they get to nerd out? Is it an increased awareness that there are great Canadian authors? Like, if I wander in from a Blue Jays game, what am
You
I taking away from it?
you have identified a tension because there's the charitable tension of the organization and its need to monetize and exist. And I will tell you, the board is made up of a lot of word levels, booksellers and people from publishing, etc. I'm the only fundraising guy. And so a lot of people really care more about the words ecosystem surviving, less about the charities kind of thing. What's the goal? It's straight up delight. Again, I fell in because I was flunking out of school and I fell back in love with the word. And then when went to work in financial work, it just gave me that outside perspective. So the real goal of the visitor is absolute delight and the word is engaging, but there's also the financial needs and all that kind of stuff.
I want to come back to something that you've mentioned is kind of a thread that's kind of gone through this. The importance of cultural festivals, not just things like Word on the Street, but in places like Guelph and Sydney, Nova Scotia, and Chilliwack, British Columbia. And the fact that we're losing some of these, why is it so important? If you can just reiterate that we bring these things back, not just slowly, but bring them back with a vengeance.
Bring them back and build new ones because again, Canada has culture. We will do our land acknowledgement. You darn right we stole this land from Indigenous folks, but they are telling us too, hey, you got stories in the past 200 years, friggin' tell them. We are Canada. The Avro Arrow is a story. Diefenbaker was a weirdo. That was a story, right? And all in these towns, Red Deer and Fredericton, all these smaller communities have stories to tell. There should be charitable festivals, museums, art in communities that should exist. And the government of Canada, CPA quotes it, as the best charitable donation system in the Western world. We should bankroll and endow these things locally. Every town has actually a responsibility to tell its past to its future. And the easiest way to do that without making bricks and mortar is a festival.
So it sounds like we have to convince some civic leaders to embrace the past as a bridge to the future.
You bet. And you and I are the guys that make it possible through financial planning and charitable giving. They don't believe it's possible because they think they've got to find the budget. No, they don't. Frankly, the wealthiest family in town made their money over the last 2 or 3 generations because of this town. They could give the money to bankroll the community's festival. And frankly, they got an author in the family. They got a business owner in the family. All these festivals are us. It's the DNA of our local town, and we should literally celebrate that. And again, funny enough, that's exactly how the indigenous community talks about it. In fact, their festivals originally were made illegal by the government. They're saying we should bring it back. Everybody should party, right? But it should be wrapped around a theme, an intellectual, geographic. We're celebrating, we're educating.
Hey, it's only impossible because somebody hasn't done it yet. So, Paul, I want to give you an opportunity just to, how do people get involved in Word on the Street? Obviously, there's the festival people can attend, but how can people who care about the word and getting authors and poets out into the public space, how can they help?
Yeah, for sure. Right now is the time of year where we do a lot of the volunteer intake. We got hundreds of volunteers to come to downtown Toronto and help out September 27th, 28th. So volunteering is one. Of course, giving is another one. But the other thing is really just asking, reaching out to us. Anybody can reach out to me or a member of the board to just say, what is it? If I love the word, again, if they're a book shop, we should be helping you sell books. It's just about being connected. We want people to nerd it up, be in touch. We'd love them to give, but it's more important to have fun and be engaged. After they're engaged, frankly, they bother me to donate. Man, Paul, this is amazing. How do we make that happen? I need 10,000. And then they give it. I'd rather talk about the work. Again, with the staff of the organization, the way they focus on the programming, the education. Again, I want to focus on the money so that they can focus on the mission. And people can plug into that in a ton of different ways. Volunteering, giving, and come down. We want to see you there.
Hey, Paul, I'm going to see you down there in late September. Thanks for taking some time to explain Word on the Street and just how important it is as a cultural festival to the people of Toronto and the citizens of Canada.
There you go. You'll be able to find me easily. I walk around with a huge sign that says, please help me. I'm a board member, BORED. And all I do is walk around and say, could you talk to me? Why are you here? I wandered in here as a dumbass 37 years ago. Now I'm a dad with teenage kids and I love this place. Why do you love it? That's all I do the whole time. So if you see me wander around, talk to me. But if you see me wandering with someone else, it's a donor. I invite foundation holders, all the big givers to come enjoy the festival, see it, see the programming, meet your favorite author. And then we talk about giving one-to-one. And I run groups and that kind of thing. And frankly, what's happened now is I've got these donors giving to other charities. We need Luminato to survive. We need the Giller Prize to survive. And so we're building the ecosystem around the arts and giving, and we could be doing that for each other. So we hope to see these folks down there September 27th, 28th in Toronto.
Hey, thanks, Paul.
Great stuff. Great to chat.